Hi everyone and welcome to our first session of Art Attack with Miss Fourie. So over the next couple of weeks I am going to be looking at a few artists which I'd like to share with you. We're going to look at all sorts of art, and for the first one we are going to be looking at pop art. Now just before we start, does anybody have an idea of what pop art is? If you do, keep it in your head and you could share with me later. So our first artist that we are looking at is called Roy Lichtenstein. Roy Lichtenstein. Has anybody heard of Roy Lichtenstein before? Do we have any idea where he might be from or what sort of artist he is? If you do, let me know. So this is Roy Lichtenstein. What clues can we get from looking at this photograph? There is a big clue at the back which might help us figure out what sort of artist he is. Do you have an idea? Brilliant. So, Roy Lichtenstein was an American pop artist during the 1960s. Now you're probably thinking, Miss Fourie, what is pop art? What is a pop artist? Well, don't you worry, we'll be looking further on in the slides. Now, he wasn't the only famous pop artist in the 1960s. There was also a man named Andy Warhol, which we might have a look at in the next few weeks. Now it says he became a leading figure in the new art movement, which basically means he was a person who created a new type of art, which encouraged loads of other people to have a go at that same type of art. He is known for his brilliant comic book-like paintings. He was born and grew up in New York City. He served for the United States Army during the World War II, which is brilliant. But when he came back from war, he finished his education at Ohio State University. Now, usually when people get deployed to war, they might have been quite young, so about 15 or 14 maybe. Now, that means he hadn't actually finished school. So when he came back from war, he decided to go back to university. Now, this is where he began to get all the skills of how to become an artist. From this, he decided to become a teacher and teach loads of other children and grown-ups in colleges all about how he does his art. Now, Lichtenstein was interested in popular culture, which basically means anything that was going on during that time, including comic books and advertising. So there were two big things that was really popular during this time in the 1960s. Huge billboards, like big signs, comic books. You've got the likes of Batman, Spider-Man. You would have had an idea of what comic books are, I'm sure, if any of you have ever watched any of the Marvel films. He liked to make his art really colourful and really bright with lots of dots and lines. Now, I bet you're thinking, what do you mean? How can I think about dots and lines? How's that art? Well, we are going to have a look. So we're going to have a look at a few of his famous pieces. So I'm going to show you lots of different things, some varying from other pieces, but it just shows how versatile, so how much he did all sorts of art. So he did lots of different types of art basically. So his first piece, which he is known for, is the painting painted on a car, which is crazy. Can you imagine painting a car? Now, how much fun would that be? I think we should encourage Mr. Willen to give us his car and let's have a go at painting it. What do you think? Do you think he'll let us get away with it? Probably not. Maybe Miss McKay might let us paint her white car, who knows. So this is a Group 5 racing version of a BMW 320i. So this was a racing car, and he painted on this car in 1977. Now, this is probably giving you an idea of what sort of painter he was. He liked to use lots of dots, lines, and shapes. His next famous piece was called Wham. Now, this was showcased in the Tate Modern in 1963. Now, the Tate Modern is a huge museum which showcases all different types of art, from sculpture to paintings to photographs to all sorts, and it is a brilliant place to go visit, and that is in London. Now, this particular piece that he has done is based on a comic book style painting. Now, if we think comic books are usually like quite small, and they're usually an A4 page, so like a book, this painting actually was huge. It was massive. I would say it is probably the size of your wall in your house, a wall in your house. He loved to do his paintings on large scale, which just means he didn't like just doing a bog standard piece of paper size painting. He loved doing huge paintings, which I think is rather cool. Now, this particular painting here is showing a fighter jet, perhaps, shooting a rocket. Now, it says, I pressed the control and ahead of me, rockets blazed through the sky. How cool is that? And I absolutely love the flame details here of the other enemy plane being shot down. So, this is another example of his work. Now, just looking at this, what is it? What do we think it is? What does it look like? Is it a painting? Is it a picture? Is it a sculpture? What do we think it is? Is it real? Do we think it's real? Is it actually something that's not on paper? Do we think could we have it in our hands? What is it? Have a think. Have 5 seconds and share your ideas to whoever is with you. Let's have a look. So we're going to have another look again, but this time let's see what's different. So what do you notice now? I have zoomed in on that image. What do you think it is? What do you notice that you didn't notice before? So this is actually a painting of a mirror in the style of a comic book strip. Now, what has the artist used here that we didn't know he'd used before? Now, if you look very closely, you can see that he's using lots and lots of dots. Now, before we looked at this image, the other image looked like it was just painted or just coloured, of solid colour rather than dots. That is so cool that when you zoom in, you can see all this detail. Now, having a look again, what medium do we think we use? So when I say medium, I mean, what has the artist used? Has he used pencils, pens, paints? What do we think he's used? So if you've guessed it, it is paints. He has used here oil paints and acrylic paints, which is a bit thicker than your normal watercolour and poster paints that we use in school. Moving on, I'm going to show you now a few pop art images. So, pop art is. What do we think about this painting here? Is it showing lots and lots of detail, or is it quite plain? What do we think? So pop art is based on popular things at the time, such as everyday objects and adverts. Now, something that was very popular in 1960s was pop art based on the likes of Coca-Cola cans, baked bean cans. A lot of artists took inspiration, so ideas from advertisements that you'd like see on the telly or on big billboards. I thought, I'm going to make that in a really cool way, and I'm going to paint it in an artistic way. So pop art is also comic strip art. Now, who thinks they know who these characters are? I'm sure lots and lots of you have seen these two characters before. So this is a comic strip of Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse. So this would have usually been in a book, like a comic magazine, which showed a story. So if you've ever done a storyboard at school, it's very similar to that, where you'd have your picture and your text that told the story of what's going on in that picture. So just by looking at it, it says, "Look, Mickey, I've hooked a big one." What do we think they're doing? Now, I have an idea just from the text, but if you see, there is a fishing rod, but look what he's done. He's hooked his own shirt. So he thinks he's caught a very big fish, and Mickey is finding it very funny. So, moving on. He made paintings, so Lichtenstein made paintings inspired by comics, but unlike the comics, they were enormous. So coming back to what I'd said, they were huge, these paintings. Huge. So he also uses what we call Ben Day dots. So if you can remember looking back at the mirror picture where he used dots to form a block of colour, this is also the same. So this is a magnifying glass. This is a painting of a magnifying glass. And as you can see, it's magnifying the dots. So the dots are bigger, whereas the dots are quite small here. Lichtenstein used this dotty technique to build up colour and texture like a comic book. Clever colours. Now this is possibly one of my favourite pictures, paintings should I say. It's very simple in the sense that it only uses about 5 colours. We've got black, white, yellow, red and blue. Now have a look, what other things has the artist used? So he's only used a few colours. What about the shapes and outlines? Has it always used dots? What other technique has he used? Can we see? So just like the comics of the day, Lichtenstein used few colours in his painting, and here we could see that he has used lines. And it almost looks like a bit like a sea, and that's a lighthouse. That's what I think. I'm not too sure what, but then there's a lady. It is very cool. The good thing about art is it's your interpretation, so it's what you decide you want it to be. If you think art is a bit like when you read words and it builds up a big picture in your brain, and it's all about what you think it is and how you take it. Nobody will have the same idea as you. So like, for example, I've just said it looks very much like a sea and a lighthouse. Some other people might say it looks like something else, which is brilliant. It's all about your interpretation of that piece of art. So he's also done some sculptures. Now this is what I'm going to show you now is more something of his more recent work. So something he's done recently. As in recently, I mean 1996 to 1998, which was still 20 or so years ago. So Liechtenstein liked to make sculptures too. And this sculpture is called House Eye. This sculpture, fun fact about this is, when people go and see it, depending on where they stand, it looks like an optical illusion. So it looks really funny depending on which way you look. It's made out of aluminium metal and painted on. It took him 2 years to get that painted and up and in the garden where it's placed. 2 years. Now take that into consideration when we say take your time. I don't mean take 2 years. We don't want to take 2 years in class. We'll be long gone. So here's another one. Here is another sculpture that he has created. Now I just want you to spend a couple of minutes, so pause the video and let me know what you think. So pause it now and replay when you are ready. Okay, so hopefully you would have paused the video and had a chat what you think it is. Now, if you have any great ideas, please write them down and share. Now, what clues can we get from this? So this sculpture is called brush strokes. Who guessed it might be a ribbon, brush strokes, or anything else? Then you've done an amazing job at guessing that. So this is called brush strokes. Now, as you can see, it's like a paintbrush stroke on a piece of paper. Where you would have all had a paintbrush and had a go at painting at some point in school. Now it does look like the brush strokes that you are left with after you have painted. Now, what do you notice about this? Has anyone picked up on the little man at the very bottom? How big do we think that sculpture is? Do you think that man might be the size of one of your teachers? How big is that sculpture? That will be huge. So, moving on. Liechtenstein today. Liechtenstein is very popular. All of these items have been inspired. So people have took his work and made it into new things. So as we can see, we've got a very cute little baby, but the baby is laid on a quilt or blanket with prints of Liechtenstein's work. The next one is cushions of Liechtenstein's famous painting, Wham, which looks like it's on somebody's settee too. And then obviously we've got the famous car. So I think somebody else has decided, you know what, I really like that car. I'm going to do the same. And then this one is Liechtenstein's painting, but printed on a jacket. What do you think? Do you think we should start rocking them jackets, walking around school? No? Yeah? We'll have to see. Okay, so one of his paintings, just to give you an idea of how much his art costs, one of his paintings were sold for more than So more than $55 million in 2013. $55 million. Now that is a hell of a lot of money. That is a lot of money. That's enough to buy you 20, 30, 40, 50 houses 20 million times over. Something crazy like that. Lots of money. I wish we all had that type of money. It'd been amazing. Okay, so more things of Liechtenstein today. Here's a few examples of his paintings. And a hot dog just at the bottom there. So we've got a print, a picture of a living room, his most famous picture of Wham. Now, which is your favourite? Which is your favourite? Now, if you have a piece of paper and a pencil, could you please get it and write me which picture is your favourite and tell me why. Now, this is where you can upload it onto Seesaw and let me know. So, which piece of artwork is your favourite? Now, it doesn't have to be the four, should I say, that's on this page. It could be one of the ones that I've shown on previous slides. So don't forget, we've got the car, got the mirror. Let me know which one is your favourite and write it down and upload onto Seesaw, please. Okay. Now, this is your task. This is your art task. I would love to see your very own version of Liechtenstein's work. I have attached some activities that may help you. Now, you should be able to find this on Seesaw. I will make sure all of the teachers have sent it out on Seesaw so you can have a go. If not, if you do not want to use the activities I sent, or you cannot download them for any reason, please do try and draw me anything in the style of Liechtenstein on a blank piece of paper. Don't forget the key points that his paintings are all about. He likes to use dots instead of colouring in. He uses dots. He likes to use lines. He likes to use bold colours and only a few. So remember, one of them only had about 5 colours in. And then could you please upload any work to Seesaw to be featured on our next Superstar Live? Now, I'm looking so forward to seeing everything that you create. Please, please, please make sure you upload it and put it into the art file, which would be brilliant. Thank you so much, and I cannot wait to see you. Bye, guys.